Yeah, the stream's going. It says stop, so I'm guessing it's doing its thing. I'm gonna sit down for a second. Ooh. I'm backlit. So this main camera right here, the one that I'm making eye contact with right now, is going to move around quite a bit because I haven't figured out where I'm going to be doing this painting thing yet. But the purpose of this stream is basically, this is my first session that will be about oil painting. I'm doing a self-portrait. One of the things I've been wanting to do this year, or since my last birthday when I turned 30, is to do a self-portrait that kind of embodies where I'm at this point in my life. It's something that artists do. They kind of, like, I don't know, they capture the now at certain checkpoints in their life. And I've done this, I don't know, every so often, every few years. The last one that I did was quite a while ago, so I don't know, I'm due to do it again. And this one's going to involve Noodle Feet, because I don't know, he's a new addition to my life. In the past 3 years, I had a robot baby, so I get to include him in my self-portrait this time around. Hi, Maker Block! But yeah, I'm gonna try and put this someplace a little bit better. Oh god. Is that any better? It's better for now. So, I've got some weird lighting in here. Unfortunately, the sun has gone down since I set this up, and everything's completely changed from when I originally put the cameras in place, so I apologize for the awkwardness. Hi, Lord Grease. Hey, guys. So this is what I did. I did go and shoot some more reference images since I talked to you guys last on the Discord chat. I haven't looked at them yet, though. I'm just hoping, I'm kind of taking for granted that one of them is going to be what I needed it to be, so I'm gonna cross my fingers, because if all of them suck, then I'm gonna be doing that whole thing again tomorrow when the sun goes down. Because there's, like, you know, the golden hour, there's that sweet spot between, like, right now, like 4:30 and 5:30, where the lighting's really, really nice and juicy, and it facilitates in getting those really dynamic photos. And I don't know, I really need to do everything I can to make my skin not just look like dead and kind of gray, so I need all the help I can get. But anyhow, where was I? Okay, I made a list. I don't know if you can see this list, but this is basically what I'm going to be going over today. It's going to be a relatively brief stream, because I'm not going to actually get into the oil painting today. I'm just going to talk about how to prime your canvas and prepare to do a portrait the proper way. If you ever want to get into doing this yourself, I'm going to pass all of the secrets that I was taught on to you. And I think Mark just walked back into the house. To show you what I see. So there's Mark. He's just brought my canvas back into the universe. Was that hard?
Pain in the ass.
I'm so sorry. He cut it for me.
It's done.
Okay. But I saw him walk in over there through the door, the outside area. Anyhow, say hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark. Alright, I'm gonna go make food and eat it.
No, wait.
I'm hungry, so I'm gonna
Prep the chicken?
Yeah, and I'll probably eat some, and then do your thing.
Well, there's sauce.
Make it quick.
I am. Smells like plywood. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the formaldehyde.
That's formaldehyde?
I think that's what I'm told.
What?
It's just toxic. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Are you gonna bread the chicken and everything?
No, I'm not gonna bread anything.
You have to bread the chicken.
No, I'm gonna cook them like chicken wings.
With the flour on either side, right? Yeah, like you did in the flour.
I wasn't planning on doing it.
That's how you do it. Hang on, this is very important. Come here.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll put it in the egg batter and then.
No, remember when we made the pancake balls?
Yeah.
We put the flour on the other side?
I don't want to do it that way.
Why?
I want it more like a real chicken wing would be.
But then the flour is what gives it that skin that you like.
I'm gonna figure something out.
Don't use tapioca starch.
I would love to do that.
Please don't do that.
I'll figure something.
Not for this.
No, I don't have any. So I'll figure it out.
Use some egg and flour, salt and pepper.
Yeah. Sure.
Anyhow.
Have fun.
Okay.
Okay.
Now you know what we're having for dinner.
Yeah.
Let's see. Desktop view. I'm gonna switch to that in another moment, but for now, what is backlighting? There's like some weird thing casting a shadow on my face. I can't tell what. Oh, it's that light. Let me turn that off. No, that just made it really dark. Eh. There! Okay, that's a little bit better. Anyhow, so hopefully in the future, when I actually start doing the oil painting itself, I'm going to be doing this streaming during the day when there's actual daylight, because that's when you should be doing painting. Artificial light's great and all, but I don't know, I just kind of like open windows, open space, and some nice, like, diffused, all-around, hugging, natural light coming in from all ends. So I'm gonna get to cut to the skinny. So when you're doing a self-portrait, the first and most important thing that you must do is pick a reference photo. I guess I should preface this by saying that this is the way that I was taught. Wow, he's going to be making really loud noise. Hang on. God damn. Okay. So what I'm going over right now is basically the way in which I was taught how to do oil painting or portraiture back when I was in high school. So I went to a magnet school called LVA here in Las Vegas, and I had a really great classically trained mentor who taught every single one of us how to paint things more or less photoreal. And when we were first learning how to do the painting, we were told that you copy from an image, because if you can copy the image, then you can do anything else eventually as well. So, fair enough. Now, when you're choosing a reference photo, there are good reference photos and then there are shitty reference photos. And the thing that we were kind of prompted to do was to pick images of ourselves that had the most depth. And by depth, I mean things that have shadows and highlights, and in the midtones there's a lot of different colors. So it's not just one monochromatic scale of, like, you know, flesh tone from like shadows all the way to highlights. There's just a range of, I don't know, different colors that might happen to be in the space, like casting off of your skin. And that makes it more interesting. So we were urged to not just kind of pick a photo that was washed out, though a lot of our selfies tend to look good because when our eyes and lips and nose are just kind of plopped on top of a flat white color, it diminishes any of our flaws that we think we have, but it doesn't make for a really interesting portrait once you're done painting it. So it actually behooves you to pick something that has some more information. The more information, the better. So the thing that I was running around doing today before I started this stream was I was trying to get a better reference image, because during, I think 2 weeks ago, when I first kind of started setting up to do this, I went outside and I did a photo shoot session with Mark, and he took a couple pictures that I really, really liked, but half of my body was lit by the nice setting sun, and the other half of my body, where my face was in relative shadow because the sun had started to kind of slip underneath the pole barn in the yard. So yeah, but I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to switch the view down to my desktop, whatever it is I'm looking at, and I'm going to show you the images that I'm thinking of going with. There we go. I'm in my bra! Look at that! Who cares? So this is me holding my baby noodle, and I've got my wine, and I've got my finest robe on and some fancy pants. And there's some really nice colors going on. I've kind of got that classical mother gazing lovingly down at child kind of pose going. I'm standing in kind of a contrapposto position, holding the wine casually, and there's some nice colors going on. But again, you can kind of see where the light cuts off right about here, and my pants and Noodle's feet and the very bottom of my robe are kind of lit crisply with the setting sun, but the top half of my body is kind of getting into that flat, non-dynamic zone, which is not good. So what I did is I ran out back and I don't know, I had him shoot me in the robe just from the head up to see if I could replicate my face and get an image that had maybe just a little bit more range. Why does this matter? So one of the things that my mentor... Where is my thing? One of the things that my mentor told me that has always kind of stuck with me my entire life in regard to painting, and this translates into the digital painting that I do as well. When you're painting from a reference photo, imagine that the photo that you are referencing is as good as your work is ever going to get. Like, let me rephrase that. What you're creating is only going to look as good as the photograph, ultimately. So if you have kind of a crappy photograph, then your image that you're replicating is going to look about that stratus of good. And there's only so much you can kind of embellish and make up and fake. And again, if you're a really good, experienced painter, you could probably take a reference photo and jazz it up a lot. But when you're just getting started and you're learning how to do the oil painting, just take into account that you're only going to be able to make it look as good as what you're kind of looking at. So that being said, I don't know if I want to go through all the photos right now because it's not really important that I do. This stream isn't about the image that I chose. I'm going to, I don't know, probably between now and the next time I do a painting session, resolve what I'm going to be looking at and replicating, but that's not your concern at the moment. So I'm going to move on to the next bullet point. So now that I've talked to you about the reference image right there, I'm going to discuss your canvas. So one of the things that I think most people believe is that most artists, I don't know, they paint on canvas, right? At least stretched canvas on some sort of like wood frame, but not this artist. I find that using some sort of flat, hard, non-bendy, malleable surface actually works best for me. And the secret is that you really can paint on whatever you want so long as you prime it properly. So what do artists use to prime their canvas? Some of you guys might know this, but one of the best canvas primers and light diffuser type materials, anyhow, one of the best canvas primers is a thing called gesso. And gesso is effectively an acrylic paint that has a little bit of a tooth to it, that once you put it on a surface, it gives it enough of a texture that your paint will actually stick to the surface. So gesso, if you go to any art store, tends to be pretty expensive, and it only comes in white. You see a lot of artists start out on a white canvas. That's because the gesso was that color. Traditional gesso also stretches the canvas, so as it dries, it actually it tightens it so that as it kind of becomes hard, it actually kind of makes your fabric taut on the wooden frame. If you're painting on something like wood, doesn't matter so much. It's just gonna dry and become kind of a toothy surface. But in most cases, when you go to the art store and you look up gesso, it's usually white, and that's boring. One of the things I was also taught is to never start on a white canvas. Once you have your reference photo, you are going to want to look at it and decide what you want your kind of base color to be. And this matters because though you're going to be covering up most of your image with paint and you aren't going to see what the background color was, a little bit of it is going to show through, and you want to do that. You want to allow for that. An experienced painter will let a little bit of their background color show through in the shadows, and it's going to have a really nice effect, and it's going to help you make your painting look more impressive without having to put that much more work into doing so. So it matters what you pick. Also, the rest of your paint tends to kind of pick up the mood of the, I don't know how to explain, the mood of the color that you pick. So if you start with a cooler color, then your painting is going to have a much more kind of subdued, moody kind of feel to it, whereas if you pick kind of a warmer, more, I don't know, rosy tone, or a red or an orange, then your painting is going to feel a lot more, I don't know, like a hug. So it does matter. But that being said, you also want the color that you pick to be present in the background of the image that you pick. So if I go back and I reference, and I'm going to ask you guys this right now, if anyone's in the chat still, how is the audio sound? Am I clipping a lot? Because I just noticed that my sound bar is kind of doing some sporadic things down there. If not, I'll continue. But anyhow, I'm going to scoot back down to my desktop view, over to this image again. And, okay, so you can see, I'm going to say that the overall background palette, like my skin tone, my robe, and then the background behind me, is a very kind of cool palette. There's a lot of cool browns, and a cool brown is a brown that has blue in it versus like orange or red. It's got kind of a clay, earthy feel to it, and there's a lot of kind of violet-y shades and cool blue kind of tones, undertones in the shadows of my skin, basically, which is good. There are some warm colors, of course, like my neon orange bra and Noodle's red blankie are in fact very bright, warm tones, but everything else is kind of predominantly a cool, earthy color in my eyes. So what I went ahead and picked up today are the colors that I'm going to use to mix my own kind of custom gesso, I guess. And this is another secret that my mentor passed on to all of us little art babies back in the day. Let me switch back over to my big cam. My glasses do block my eyes, so I tried to kind of fix that with the pictures that I took today, although I'm not entirely like put off by that. But Mark did make that observation and pointed out to me that my glasses do cut off my eyes in the portrait, and that kind of cuts off some connection that you would make by looking at the person in the portrait. So some of the photos that I took today, they fixed that, but I haven't looked at them yet. So anyhow, back to the gesso color. So when you go to the store, you can usually find white gesso and black gesso, like I mentioned, and if you want colored gesso and you do happen to find it, it does tend to be very expensive, or more expensive than it should be for acrylic paint. One of the things that you can do to make your own cheap colored gesso is buy plain acrylic paint, which if you have a Blick art store, I don't know, nearby, you can get acrylic paint there for relatively cheap. You buy their brand, the Blick brand, and you put baby powder in it, which is like the best thing that I've learned ever in regard to art type things. If you want to paint on any surface, buy acrylic paint, mix baby powder in it until it's like a paste, kind of like brownie batter, and then put that on something and let it set, and it will be good to paint on with pretty much anything, either acrylic or oil or whatever, which is good. So the colors that I'm going with for my background, and you probably noticed these are like different. They're hugely different. There's kind of a brown, and this is actually a what the hell is this? Bronze. There you go. This is a bronze metallic acrylic paint, and then this is a metallic teal. I think that's what that says. It's metallic teal. This probably doesn't look that teal in this lighting, but just take my word for it. It's like a very green-blue type color. Now, I'm thinking I'm going to mix these two together, and I'm going to get some kind of greeny yellow color that's very dark, and it is going to have a slight metallic sheen to it, because these are both metallic paints. But I'm thinking that both of these, you can kind of see them, actually. She has a light right here. There we go. Alright. There we go. I can kind of see that a little bit better. Maybe not that much better. So this is a bright teal color, and this is a bronze. Or, yeah, bronze. Okay. Alright. That means I have to grab my baby powder. I was bad and didn't get that ahead of time. Pick a canvas, pick a background color, cut canvas to scale. Okay, so I mentioned that I normally paint on flat surfaces rather than canvas. I personally like masonite, which is something that you can buy at Home Depot for a relatively small amount of money. I think you can get like a 4-foot long segment of it for something like $4 or $5 for the really thin stuff. And since masonite is really hard, you can get away with using a really thin sheet of it, and it'll hold its form for the most part without curling or doing anything weird. For this particular painting, I bought, I think it's particle board or press board. It smells like wood. It doesn't have a wood grain to it, so it's probably some composite that's got a glue in it, which is fine. Mark went ahead and cut it down to size. When you are picking your reference photo, so I'm going to go back to this real quick. You're going to want the size of your reference image to proportionately correspond to whatever your canvas size is. So, oh, it totally zoomed in on my boobie. Sorry about that. I don't know why it did that. Okay, so it's 32 inches by 46 inches. That's the photo size. The particle board that I'm using is 24 inches wide. So if I scale that, it's going to be 24 inches wide by 34.5 inches long, so that is what I cut my particle board to, but I'm not gonna scale this. The other thing I'm going to need to do is grid this eventually, but I'll get to that later. To transfer your image to your canvas, you actually grid. You put a grid on your image, and you put the same grid on your canvas, and then you block everything in proportionately based on your grid system, and that helps you make sure that everything is composed properly and that your proportions are correct. You're going to want to spend a lot of time making sure that your form and all of your subject matter is spot on relative to your reference image before you start painting, because once you start actually putting paint on the canvas, it's a lot harder to make those changes once you're fist deep in it. So just trust me on this. Spend a little bit extra time making sure that all of your pencil sketches on your grid really match the image that you have in Photoshop as your reference image. Just as boring as it is, you really just make sure that it's happy. So the next thing for me to do on my little list of things, if I go back to my other view and show you my little thing again. Oh man, come on, zoom in on that. There we go. I need to mix my gesso. And as I explained, that's going to be these two colors of paint and some baby powder. But I need to go get the baby powder real quick, so I'll be back in just like 2 seconds. I don't know what you can look at while I'm gone. Here. Say hi to Noodle. Hee hee. Almost done. Baby powder. Baby powder. Alright guys, so for today's stream, I'm thinking, how does that look? It's actually not too terrible. I'm gonna have to come up with a better setup once I start painting, and as I mentioned, the setup is probably going to take place in front of the window that is gonna have the natural light coming in from the outside. I'm gonna have to figure out a place to mount my camera so that, like Bob Ross, I can kind of stand here with my back quasi to you and work on the painting and talk about what the hell it is I'm doing. But for today, since I am just kind of smearing a blanket color on my canvas and deliberating about what my actual subject matter is going to be, not subject matter, a reference photo, it's not really important. This is all technique and setup. So I am gonna decide if this thing has a better side. It probably looks good. I know what I'm gonna do. I don't know if this is solving any problems. Probably not. I'm sorry I'm not looking at the chat very much. It's usually not my style, but I don't know. I want to get this done so that Mark can eat, because he's been waiting to eat pretty much this whole evening, afternoon. There we go. Much better. Cool. It's just wood. Nothing special. How are you guys doing, by the way? Oh, Noodle says hi. What are you guys saying about butts? I don't know. I think thighs are what? Whatever. Alright. So again, colors. And I'm gonna shut off the autofocus really quick because that is super, super annoying. Advanced autofocus. Turn that shit off. That's good enough. Good enough for this. What do we have? Plastic cups. Oh, the plastic cup fairy took my cup. Ooh. I'm gonna ask Mark about that really quick. Oh, that's another thing. I'll probably go over this again, but you need a glass bottle to keep your paint thinner in. So, as is tradition, or is my tradition, I always put my paint thinner in a Frappuccino bottle. And I haven't had a Frappuccino probably since I was in high school, so yeah, I've got some good nostalgia going today. Hi, Pookage. Hi, Game of Knowing. Hi. But anyhow, I'll be right back. I'm gonna get a cup to stir all this stuff in, and then I'll be back. Mark? This cup is going to get wrecked. I have brushes somewhere too. These are brushes from Shape Daddy. Yeah, they'll do. So, go back up here for the time being. So I mentioned that it's like falling out like turd. Whew, that smells bad. Wow. Their acrylic paint smells like styrene, which is probably really, really bad. And this stuff's considerably thinner. So that's what that looks like in there. Gross. Alright, so I mentioned that this was going to be a portrait of Noodle, like, nursing from me, which would have been funny and kind of disturbing in a sense, but I came to find out while I was posing for my photos with Mark that Noodle's legs do not bend in a way that facilitate him nursing from anything, really, unless he's standing on that surface. And I engineered him to fold that way, so I found out very quickly that that wasn't gonna actually work out unless I faked it, which is something I could have done in post, but I didn't really want to, I don't know, I didn't want it to look unnatural for Noodle. I mean, like a robot nursing from a human is kind of unnatural, but I didn't want it to look like a forced pose, and I didn't see that there was any way that I could get his foot to kind of bend in a way that it didn't look awkward. So I'm like, it's funny how this looks kind of purple in the camera's view. It's funny, I feel like I just made this. I made blue cheese dip like maybe an hour and a half ago, and it was this exact same mulling process of like putting way too much Greek yogurt and blue cheese into a small vessel and then stirring the crap out of it. Whew. But this does smell really bad. It's probably terrible for me. But I'm going to put a little bit more paint in here. Pretty much all of the bronze. That sound of the air getting pushed out of the tube was kind of the all she wrote sort of death rattle of a paint tube. Oh, I see my name. Why don't you stand your thing up on the wall and have your laptop on the side and have your camera behind you so you can see your work when you... I am gonna stand the canvas up once I'm painting, but right now, just for the sake of like gessoing the board, I want to make sure that it doesn't run or like fall down since I'm just gonna be gopping it on. But I might do that and stand the thing. I might use that as a setup. Lord Greasy Maggot. I will probably set it up so that I do have my laptop as the side camera, the side view camera, and then my little HD camera right here as the, I don't know, the one that's zoomed in on my work, or vice versa, whichever works out better. But this is just for the sake of this process, because this should go pretty fast. Okay. It's actually kind of pretty. Let's see if I can get the light down in there. Probably not. So this is kind of a, you guys know what color teal is, right? It's you just have to take my word for it. It's a little bit more of a light. Looks lighter. It's like got a light, kind of almost pearlescent sort of sheen to it. Mark, what do you think of this color? Since you're in here.
Oh my. It's a very silvery blue. Yes. It's like the color of a Ford Focus or something like that.
It's funny how like the color he says is like the exact opposite of what I was describing. Silvery blue. I'm like, it's like a warm pearly teal, and he's like silvery blue.
Silvery
it's a
blue.
silvery blue. Okay, so I'm gonna start gopping this on. Oh wait, no I'm not. I lied. I have to put the baby powder in here. So I'm gonna aim this down. Mark, how do you make gesso?
You add baby powder to white acrylic or something like that.
Or any other color of acrylic paint that you want.
It's very textured. It has tooth.
It has to have tooth. Alright kids, you want to make sure that your gesso has the same general like consistency of like brownie batter. And if you're mixing a brown gesso for your background, don't eat it, right? Because this stuff, it kind of looks delicious, even like this color looks like ice cream or something from Cold Stone, but man, it smells like straight out like styrofoam. Like I don't know what the hell they use as a binder or a medium for their acrylic paint, but it is totally not healthy for humans, goats, and other creatures of the animal kingdom. I don't know if we get an ox tonight or not. Mark?
That's okay. There's plenty of chicken for tomorrow then.
I mean, I haven't heard from him in a bit. Ooh, that's me putting acrylic paint on my dress. No, don't do that. Bad after. Alright, so I'm almost there. I had to add a little bit more. You kind of have to eyeball it. If you make it too thick, that's fine. It's just going to be kind of frustrating to like brush onto your canvas after the fact. But you really do want to make sure that it's thick, because if you don't put enough, I guess, talc or baby powder into your gesso, it'll be too smooth and your paint won't stick to the surface. I mean, you could abrade it a little bit, but it's going to change the color, and it's going to put like a fine powder on the surface of your canvas. If you do choose to sand it, that's not going to be like that great. It's not the end of the world. I mean, there's workarounds for everything, but if you can just get it right the first time, then it saves you steps and you can dive into your painting a lot faster. Besides, I tend to get very impatient. Right, Mark?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, I think my paste is like just about there. I got this whole cup's outside covered. Alright. Down we go. Look at that. Isn't that nice? What do you think of this as a color, Mark?
Hold on, I'm doing a thing for work.
Sorry. It's like, I'm busy, woman. Wow, that's thick. It's like cheese.
What's your color? What are you doing?
Cheese.
The color of cheese? Sounds like a good romance movie. Oh my.
Isn't that nice?
That's some smelly stuff right there.
It smells like styrofoam.
Oh god. It smells like a baby pooped in some paint.
Smells like a baby shit in some styrofoam.
This is the price of arting.
See what Mark has to live with?
Yep. Awful.
Don't date an artist. You will regret it. With every waking breath.
Okay, more cooking, dude.
What do you need to do next? You get paint all over your shit. It's so thick. It's like super thick. It's very zinky. That's right, I said zinky. Slather that shit on. Also, guys, this is a way to texture things. Like, if you want to paint a surface and have it kind of have the same tooth grain or texture is like stone. A really good way to achieve that effect is to use the baby powder in your paint. You just add an amount proportional to how grainy and gritty and chunky you want it to be, and you just kind of slather it on and let it kind of just chunk away. It gives it kind of a clay-like consistency, which is great if you're trying to get that stone sort of effect. I used that when I made a set of Fifth Element stones a while ago for one of Hackaday's sci-fi contests, and to texture the outside of the 3D printed Fifth Element stones that we designed, I painted them with this same acrylic and baby powder mix, and it achieved a very convincing rock effect. It made it look very porous, kind of like a pumice, and the feel in your hands, like if you just were to pick one of them up, was very convincing that it wasn't in fact plastic, but some sort of rock, which is what we were going for. Almost done. Just gotta get these few spots around the edges filled in, and I think I'll be good. Almost done. Don't want... The only thing that sucks about using cheap brushes is sometimes the hairs fall out while you're painting or doing the priming, and then you just get hairs kind of embedded into your canvas, which isn't the best thing, but it's not the end of the world. It's just really annoying and kind of difficult sometimes to pick them out after everything's dried. Alright, just this last corner. What do you guys think of the color? Not that you can tell very well what this color is even, but it's... God, that glare is terrible. It's literally kind of a warm teal, if that makes any sense. Like, it's a two-tone, kind of like those fancy car paint jobs that have like a double sheen to them. In the light, it's very bronze, but then when the shadow hits it, it's just teal. So it does have, yeah, a really nice metallic effect. Two-tone metallic effect. Oh, I mixed just enough. I'm like scraping it from the bottom. So something that I like to do, and I'll probably do to this painting as well, is the edge, like this outside kind of like edge. Instead of painting it the same color as my primer, I'll actually pick kind of an accent color and go along after the fact and do it something different so that there's kind of a, I don't know, a highlight or an accent color. It's fun. You don't have to do it, but I like to. So I'm going to leave it kind of thick around the edges and non-uniform because it doesn't really matter, because that's where my background's going to be anyway. Whatever texture that you put on this with your gesso, it will pick up with the paint, whatever paint you put on here when you do start using your oil. So if you want it to be perfectly smooth, even though I advised against it, you can sand it to get that like perfect smooth kind of, you know, paper-like surface texture. I don't mind painting on something that has a little bit of a grain to it, especially a brush grain like this is giving me, this sort of coarse brush. Probably where I end up blocking in my face, I'll go in and sand that part down a little bit, because if there is like weird texture wherever you paint like the face of someone, that does tend to make them look like lizardy like, and that's not necessarily desirable in this case. So I'm just going to use up the rest of my gesso where I see there's spots kind of shining through. But other than that, like, the majority of this is covered with my desired color. And it's starting to dry already, which is good. So, we're having buffalo chicken tonight. It's not really a French Toast Friday, but we wanted to make something kind of yummy and delectable. So that was the goal. Alright guys, that's all she wrote. I've got all my corners and my edges blocked in. There's some parts that don't have paint on them, not a big deal. Because like I said, a lot of this is going to get filled in with oil paint anyway. Alright, so, I'm gonna go and rinse my brush off real quick and the big streak that I just put on my dress. And I will be right back, and I'll read the chat and I'll catch up with you guys real quick. And once this is dry, I'll move on to the next step. So, I'll be right back. Alright, so now that I think about it, the brushes are kind of like, those are those disposable brushes that you get from Home Depot, so I'm probably not going to rinse that out. I'm just going to let it dry and become a artifact, and I'll probably hang it somewhere. I'll probably keep it as a reference so that once this painting's done, I can actually show what color the underpainting is for anyone who's curious. So, I don't know. I can be like, yeah, but it started out this color. I'm gonna move this somewhere so that it can dry. I can show you guys this. Actually, no, I'm not gonna move that. Alright. Alright, guys. Plus, what's the word? Bird? Bird's always the word, Aaron. Hi, Vigray. Ooh, how did the presenting go? I know you were working towards that. Hopefully you didn't mess up your sleep schedule too much in the preparation for the presentation. Two are greater than the word. Looks like you need something to hold your canvas. There will be something to hold my canvas. It's easier to do the priming when it's laying down on something flat, so that the paint doesn't just kind of drop onto the floor. But then again, I made it so thick it didn't matter anyway. Let's see, double look. Hairs in the painting give it character. Yes! Looks like my soul. My soul is empty too. And my stomach is empty. And since, Tony, it looks like you're in the chat, I don't know, are you still there? Are you around? I'm gonna have to wait 30 seconds to get a response from you, but, I can wait. Anyhow, so while this dries, let's see, behind me, right there, the next step, once that's dry, is to put my grid on it, which is something I may or may not do during this session because it is rather boring. I might just tell you what I'm going to do and then I'll re-explain once I do the next stream. Vi says, the presentation was super short but seemed to work out well. The Hackerspace is making NES music now. Awesome. Cool, I'm glad to hear that it went well. You can sleep now. You earned all of the rest that you can possibly get. Cool. Cool, Tony. I'll see you soon. It is almost 6:30. But yeah, we started the cooking, so we'll be like knee-deep in it by the time you get here. So, yeah. The house smells like chicken. I'll be adding an NAS music special. Man, there's paint on everything now. Damn. I'm going to put my bohemian ass robe on, and I'm going to sit down in front of you, all of you, on a towel that does not have paint on it. There we go. And I'm gonna chat with you guys while that dries. So I guess my my hard stopping point for this stream is going to be when Tony gets here, which if he's leaving work in a minute, that's going to be about a half an hour, I'm guessing. So until then, until that point of time, I'm going to kind of, I don't know, like preemptively get into my wrap-up by going over these things, explaining them very briefly one last time. This is what I did during this stream. I'm going to be working on this painting, this self-portrait for a while. So over the next month, I'm going to say up until my birthday, which is in the middle of March, I'm going to be working on this at least a couple of days a week, for a couple hours here and there. The nice thing about oil, if you've ever worked with it, you know that it takes a very long time to dry. So I can just kind of, wherever I set this up, I can walk up to it, pick up the palette, do a couple of brush strokes here and there to kind of tweak the things I don't like. But over a period of the month, it's going to slowly turn into something. And I will hopefully capture a lot of that along the way in the form of just like still frames, like pictures. So that, I don't know, from start to finish, I can kind of put together a, what's it called, speed painting of an actual real-life painting. But what I did today, so I picked my reference image. I'll show it again oh wait, let me catch up. I have to write an article for the International Journal. I messed up during that. Oh no. Vi, you seem like a really busy guy. You have all the stuff going on. Yeah, life is just, I don't know. We're all always busy doing shit. Luckily, my shit doesn't fuck up my sleep schedule, though. I just kind of acclimate to sleep. I graft my sleeping onto, like, whatever my life happens to be at the moment. Right now, that's, like, fairly normal, so I'm lucky in that. But, let's see, So I picked my reference image. So, one more time, hopefully this doesn't offend anybody, but I'm in my bra. It's an orange bra. There we go. So I'm painting more or less this right here. So I'm holding Noodle, I'm staring at him lovingly, I'm in the robe that I have on right now, drinking wine. The only thing that I didn't like about this photo is that it lacks some dynamic quality, because, again, the light is on the bottom half of my body right here, nicely, but it's just started creeping away at the top, so it's a little bit more flat up here than it is down here. Not a huge deal, I can probably make up for a lot of that, but it's really difficult to fake information when you're using a reference photo. Photo is your thing that you're painting verbatim, which I happen to be doing. So I'm going to be copying this one-to-one, more or less. I took a shit ton of photos with Mark in the backyard, and everyone thinks I'm nuts next door, because I keep marching out into the backyard with Mark in a camera or my phone and like taking pictures of myself in my bra. Who does that? I don't know. I'm sure other people do that. But I'm trying to get something that has a bit more range. These are the ones Mark took. Let's just... So I didn't bring Noodle out there with me because he's kind of heavy and awkward, but these all look to kind of have the same relative depth as all the other ones do. I mean, I'm not clicking on any of them, but some of these look like they have a little bit more meat to them. So I wanted something with a little bit more shadows, highlights, and midtones, and a little bit more color. Inevitably, skin tone tends to just be the same. I don't know, what is it? Wait. Burnt sienna? I don't know what camera I'm showing this to right now, it doesn't matter. Burnt sienna tends to make up primarily all of the skin tone portions of a Caucasian person. There is a color called flesh that you can buy, which isn't consequently like the color of skin. It looks like it might be, but it is a lie. When you're painting skin, and during my next stream, where I'm working on this painting, I will be actually oil painting a sphere in the color of my skin as it pertains to the reference image that I choose. One of the first things that an art teacher will have you do is paint a sphere in the medium that you're learning. And particularly when we started getting into painting skin tones, we had to make a bunch of flesh spheres that were the same color as our skin. So everyone was trying to color match their body by painting these like spherical amalgamations, and it was this learning process. And it's one that I'm going to have to relearn because I haven't oil painted in, I think, close to 10 years. So, no, I can't say that, 7 years still. It's like been almost a decade. But this is mostly all of my skin tone, and oh god, don't fall. You mix this Naples yellow with burnt sienna, and you get Sarah. This is me. So I'm going to be making a gross-ass flesh sphere next time. And I will hopefully be showing you this canvas gridded up with at least a pencil outline of whatever photo I choose marked on it and ready to go. I'm not going to stream doing that. It's really boring. I don't want to put you guys to sleep during that process. The next time you see me working on this, I'm going to be getting oil on stuff. So that brings me back to this list that I was flashing around. Just to kind of wrap this up and go over everything that I did. I chose the reference image, which again is going to compositionally be this. So it's going to be more or less this exact kind of contrapposto pose with me looking down at Noodle holding the wine glass, yada yada. When you're choosing a self-portrait to paint, if you want to do this at home, again, pick one that has good lighting. The more tones, like highlights and shadows and interesting things going on, like with your face and your body, the more interesting stuff you have to play around with while you're painting your portrait. It's actually going to make your life easier. You need to pick your canvas. So what I do, I kind of cheat. I go to Home Depot or Lowe's and I buy Masonite. I picked a piece of pressboard for this. It works great. You can paint on anything you want so long as you put gesso on the surface, and you don't have to go and buy expensive gesso from the art store. You can just buy acrylic paint for a couple of bucks and add baby powder to it. And I should switch back over to my other camera since I'm talking now. Sorry. Get baby powder, mix it with cheap acrylic paint that costs a couple of bucks, whichever color it is that you like. Mix it until it's the consistency of like brownie batter, and then slather that on your surface that you want to paint on top of, and just make sure that it's coated. When it dries, it should have a slight tooth to it, so you know that it will actually hold on to your oil paint once you start painting on the thing. Brushes and paint is another matter. I'll get into that once I start actually painting my sphere, because that's a whole nother like gigantic discussion that is going to take some focus. And yeah, so when you pick your photo and you cut your canvas to scale, you want to make sure that they are proportionate relative to one another. You can do this in Photoshop fairly easily. You mix your gesso, again, I said you slather it on your canvas, and then the very last thing you do is grid your canvas and your reference photo, again, proportionately. So if you have a, say, for instance, like 12 by 18 square grid on your canvas, where each square is about, say, for instance, 2 inches by 2 inches big, you'll want to have the same relative thing blocked in on your reference image. And when I was in high school doing oil painting, we actually had, do you know those overhead projector things? Those clear transparency sheets that you could like print stuff on top of, and then you put them on the overhead projector and it like did the text. Like teachers use them all the time, like during lectures. I'm like dating myself, probably. Our professor gave us transparency sheets that had grids that were so many, like I think like a few centimeters by a few centimeters large, and then we would put that film over an actual fucking photo that we took with a camera, and then that was our reference photo, and we'd put the same grid on our piece of masonite and then grid everything in meticulously. So again, I'm probably not going to do that because Tony's going to be here in like 2 seconds. But that's kind of my next step. And it is, I will admit, incredibly monotonous and miserable, and I don't know. I'm not going to put you through that. There's a lot of getting things to not look like crap. Even with the grid, you still manage to screw up the drawing of the shapes. And additionally, something that I'm going to have to decide before I start doing the oil painting is whether or not I'm going to block in individual sections of underpainting before the oil goes down. And what I mean by this is once I actually draw my body and Noodle's body on the canvas, I can at that point put in individual sections of underpainting, like where my face is, or where my robe is, or where Noodle is, to put my oil painting on top of. And this decision really comes down to what your technique is going to be. If you're the type of painter who likes to have a lot of their underpainting show through, then that is one route to go that tends to be a really easy way to make things look very realistic very quickly. But I'm just gonna say my style, like throughout my history as a painter, has not been to go that route. I tend to just kind of literally block in every single value and then blend everything together so that everything is in oil. So that is probably going to be the route that I go. But burnt sienna, I can't not buy some every time I go to an art store unless it's watercolors. Then I don't. Yes, I don't think I use burnt sienna very much in watercolors. Do you use Doc Martens, Adam? You're hinting that you go to art stores and you buy paint. I don't know many people who do that these days. I hang out with a bunch of engineers, so like no one I know paints anymore. Like I actually today, like I messaged one of my old best friends from back in high school, and I was like, you need to come over and paint with me because I'm painting again. And she's like, okay. And I was like, yeah. So when I was in high school, one of the first things that we had to paint in actual color was a self-portrait. And we had to do it very, very large, like at least like 3 foot by 3 foot large, which is how I got introduced to using masonite as a canvas surface. So over the period of 2 months, one of the first things any of us did in color was our own faces, and we just literally banged our faces over our faces for 2 months until they all looked like fucking spot on, like literally amazing. So we took these tiny little like shitty Polaroid photos that we snapped of ourselves and cross-processed and turned them into these gigantic, like Da Vinci-esque amazing works of art. And we had a big collective gallery, like exhibition of all these self-portraits back when we were like 15, 16 years old. And it's a funny story. I can tell you this because I have a couple more minutes until Tony gets here. But I painted mine upside down. Now, I wasn't upside down, obviously, but I turned my picture and my canvas upside down so that when I looked at the photograph, it objectified everything enough that like when I was looking at like my shoulder or my face or my nose, it wasn't a nose, it was just groupings of values that I had to replicate. And it can kind of help you stop seeing something as what it is and actually see it as what it is, which sounds kind of crazy, but if you've ever taken any art classes, you probably know what I'm talking about. When you are copying an image from a photograph, you don't look at it for what it is. You look at it as a collection of colors and values and gradations all mashed up against each other as kind of like an abstract, and you copy that abstract. And this was sort of an exercise in doing that, since we were scaling a tiny little photograph into something very large. To take that a step farther, I painted it upside down, and it actually seemed like it was working for me. So everyone would come up and look at my upside down face, and they're like, "Wow, Sarah, that's looking really good." And I was like, "I'm getting the hang of this." And I felt pretty confident, you know? And then, yeah, at some point in time, when everyone was starting to wrap up their portrait, I took my canvas and I flipped it right side up, and it looked terrible. It looked like a person, but it looked like a melty-faced person with over-exaggerated facial features, and it didn't actually, in fact, look like me anymore. It just kind of looked like this, like, troll, like, clay-faced monster, which was funny because it didn't look that way upside down, but right side up it did. So, when I exhibited the painting in the gallery with all of my peers, I actually requested that my piece be hung upside down, specifically. So it came with instructions to hang it up the wrong way, because that was how it was created and that's how I wanted it to be viewed. So that was a thing, but now I know not to do that. So to this day, even though it seemed like a good idea at the time, I don't take that route to detach myself from the image that I'm copying. I just sort of, I don't know, I'm gonna paint it the correct way and try and make it look good all the way through the entire time. We all know that that's not the case. Like, paintings, drawings go through many stages of looking like garbage before they actually end up looking pretty good. But I'm gonna trust in my own abilities and keep it right side up this time and not play any of those games. Oh, it probably is what I look like. Adam says maybe that's what I look like. It probably is. I do look like a bunch of clay just smashed onto a face with, like, over-exaggerated features and, like, giant nostrils and stuff. I think so. I had, like, dough face, major dough face. I'll actually, if I find it, I'll dig up a photograph of the painting and show you guys what I'm talking about. And you'll laugh because I did not look anything like I do now back then, because I was a teenager and kind of gothy. But yeah, Adam says that he does watercolors. That's awesome, because that was my medium of choice back when I was a traditional artist. I have a bunch of Doc Martin watercolors, like, next to me that I'm kind of itching to use again. But yeah, going to the art store, I can actually show you this. I bought $90 worth of art shit today. And this was, like, the most healthy, exciting, like, feel-good experience that I've had in a while, because I picked out new paints, I picked out new brushes, I got a thing of Turpenoid, I got my Turpenoid container to keep my paint thinner in, I got all the fun things, and I don't really go to the art store anymore because I make robots. Like, I go and I order filament and I get stuff from McMaster Carr, but I don't go to Blick and buy paints and consider what color I'm gonna prime a canvas or what size brushes I'm going to use or anything like that anymore. So this has been kind of like, I don't know, it's like I'm getting back in touch with some part of myself that's kind of been put on the back burner for a really long time. And it feels good. But yeah, I got weird brushes, specifically because this set came with those really tiny flat ones that I was talking about using. Flats, more flat brushes, super important. And here's some more of that burnt sienna I was talking about, the color of Sarah. This is my color, this is my spirit color. Or at least I think it is. Yeah. Diosnine purple, bitches. And then mostly everything else I got in these like Blick, like student grade tubes because they're like $3.50 a piece. I don't know if these are going to be any good whatsoever, but I figured I'd give them a try because I don't have like a zillion dollars to blow on paints. If I had bought all like Winsor Newton grade oil paints, it would have not been $90. I would have spent probably closer to like $300 in paints, but this really did help me keep the cost down. And again, I am like starving ass artist. I can't afford fancy shit. Just saying. But yeah. Oh god, I gotta catch. Overhead projectors are so boring. Canvases should just have touch screens to paint over. I agree. I agree, Vi. Hide secret messages in the underpaintings. I do that, actually. I used to do a bunch of weird, quirky stuff back when I was an art student. Like in life drawing, like the shit I used to draw on the margins of all the naked people I drew was heinous and hilarious and horribly crude and rude, vile, but oh, there's a Tony here. Okay, the ox just showed up. Should I get I'm gonna get the door and I'm gonna lead him back in here. Ah! Oh. I have company. Okay, so with that, Okay, so with that, I'm gonna go finish the chicken. We're making chicken. I guess this is kind of an impromptu, not impromptu, but a light French toast Friday that doesn't involve French toast. But I think I'm gonna have that 5 o'clock cocktail that I teased of and didn't actually have, and then enjoy the rest of my Friday. But in any case, the next time that I do a stream, I am going to dive into the oil painting. I'm going to show off the canvas gridded with my body penciled in, and I'm going to start on that flesh sphere that I'm sort of threatening of. Hey, mister.
It's green.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's teal. It's...
No, it's green.
Well, I mixed these two colors, so it's kind of a green now.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be teal. Yeah. You should say hi. No?
You already know me.
You should come say hi. Tony, there's a Tony right here. Yeah? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It's an ox. 4-hour time. What are you guys talking about down there before I say goodbye? Sending supplies to make things... Wait. Alright, guys. I'll talk to you guys in Discord later on. I'm gonna go enjoy my Friday, and then next time I'm gonna get messy. So, I don't know. Thank you for keeping me company and listening to me ramble, as always. I'll be talking at you in another couple days. See ya. A wild Tony has appeared.